Hello everyone, how are you? Today, we will discuss about the Alfa Romeo 155, which was once unloved and now is hard to find. Watch the video until the end, because a legend is waiting for you in the future. The Alfa Romeo 155 is a compact executive car produced between 1992 and 1998 under the Italian brand Alfa Romeo. Built to replace the 75 and based on the base Fiat Group's Tipo platform, the 155 was slightly larger than the 75 in size, but improved its styling over its predecessor. 155 was developed by the Italian design house IDA Institute. An exceptional drag coefficient of 0.29 has been achieved with the body design. The single most significant technical change from the 75 was the change to the front wheel layout. This new configuration offered price and packaging advantages, but many Alfa and motoring press lamented the passing of a cleaner rear-wheel drive system in a car from this sporty mark. The 155 was not in keeping with Alfa's sporting tradition. Salons. There was also the 155 Q4, with a 2.0-litre turbocharged engine and permanent four-wheel drive, both derived from the Integral. It was essentially a Lancia Integral with a different body. The new model came in the guise of Sport and Super. The Sport had a slightly lowered ride height and more aggressive dampers, while the Super had wood trim and electronically controlled dampers and seat controls. The reception of the new model was generally cold. The 75 was conceived before Fiat bought the Alfa brand, so it overshadowed the 155 as the last real Alfa. The loss of the rear wheel was often cited as the main cause of disappointment. Despite this, he competed in 155 touring car races and won every major championship he entered, gradually improving his image. Soon after, the factory introduced a wider version, wide body, in 1995, which brought a wider track and revised steering, as well as new 16-valve engines for 1.8 and 2.0 litres, based on racing experience or requirements, some improvements in cabin materials and build quality. The Q4 was discontinued, but the V6 continued. There were several sport packages, including a race-inspired body kit, spoiler and side skirts, and 16-inch speedline wheels in black or graphite. The more refined could opt for the Super, which comes with wood inserts and silver-painted alloys in the cabin. Wheels. The 155 was never produced as a sport wagon, Alfa's term for an estate station wagon, but Sparrow offered one in 1994. The 155 was discontinued in 1998, replaced by the 156, which was a further development of the 155 in terms of quality and refinement, and eventually moved away from the wedge styling, leaving the 155 as the pinnacle of the special design stream of the previous era. The 155 was initially released with 7L, 8L, and 0L twin-spark petrol engines, the latter two being the variable valve 1. 7L, not sold in the UK, 1.9-litre and 2.5-litre four-cylinder turbodiesel engines were available in some markets, but not in the UK. At the top of the 155 range was the 5LV6, which used a 164 bhp engine derived from the 0LV6 used in the larger Alfa Romeo 164, and the Q4, which used a powertrain derived from the Lancia Delta. Integral means a 190 horsepower 2.0-litre 16V turbocharged engine and permanent four-wheel drive. The Q4 also incorporated 3 differentials, normal at the front, epicyclic in the center, including a Ferguson viscous clutch, and torsional self-locking at the rear. Both the 2.5 V6 and Q4 models were also available with electronically adjustable suspension. The most notable special edition was the Silverstone edition, released in Great Britain and known as Formula in Europe. It was released as a homologation exercise to allow Alfa Romeo to compete in the British Touring Car Championship Racing Series and eventually arrived with a bolt-on aero kit consisting of an adjustable rear spoiler and an extendable front air splitter. The Silverstone was a lighter but not more powerful version of the 1.8L, although the racing car it homologated had a 2.0L engine. This anomaly occurred because the 1.8-litre engine block with a narrower bore allowed Alfa to use a longer stroke in the race car and stay within the 2.0-litre capacity limit. The Silverstone was only available in Alfa Red or Black with plain, unpainted bumpers. In 1995, the 155 was given an extensive facelift, resulting in wider front and rear tracks with subtle enlargements to the wheel arches to match the changes underneath. The redesigned car also got a faster steering wheel with a lock-to-lock 2.2 turn. The four-cylinder cars retained the dual spark ignition system but received Alfa-designed 16-valve cylinder heads with belt-driven camshafts based on Fiat-designed engine blocks. They replaced the old but indestructible full Alfa 8-valve chain-driven camshaft engines of the previous models. The wide-body cars also received a revised interior and equipment specification to keep the car's cabin competitive. Wide-body Series 2 155S can be distinguished from their earlier counterparts by their flared front and smooth rear wheel arches, the latter replacing the lips around the wheel arch of the original. They also sported round or oblong indicator side repeaters and moved their model badges below the taillights instead of above them. Zagato developed two special versions of the 155. 155 Ti was introduced in 1993 and 155 GTS in 1995. Both models had more muscular exteriors and more power than the regular models, with the TIZ getting a 170 PS, twin-spark engine, and the 155 Q4's 215 PS had a turbocharged 2-litre engine. Both models were only produced in limited quantities, and many cars were shipped to Japan. The 155 was very successful in car racing, using the V6 Ti for Super Touring homologated GTA and DTM. Between 1992 and 1994, he managed to take 155 Italian Superturismo championships, the German DTM Championship, both with Nicola Larini at the wheel, the Spanish Touring Car Championship with Adrian Campos, and the British Touring Car Championship with Gabriele Tarquini. The 155 remained competitive until it was replaced by the 156, finishing third in the DTM, then known as the International Touring Car Championship, or ITC, with Alessandro Nannini in 1996, and winning the Spanish Championship again in 1997 with Fabrizio Giovanardi. 156 should maintain the high standard set by 155. We have arrived, dear viewers, to the legendary Alfa Romeo 155 Ti DTM. The DTM has always been a bit different from other touring car series, as it has traditionally been aimed at a slightly higher market segment. As a result, the cars used in the DTM were usually unsuitable for any other series, requiring a fair amount of factory involvement. The latest generation of cars, for example, were silhouette racers built around a bespoke carbon fiber monocoque powered by a very powerful turbocharged four-cylinder engine. While this allowed for some great racing, it made the series difficult to enter and highly vulnerable to the whims of manufacturers. Ultimately, this proved to be his downfall. In 1993, when a whole new set of rules were introduced for touring cars, there were no such concerns. It was a two-tier system divided into the relatively mild Class 1 and Class 2. The latter allowed for less modification and had a displacement limit of 2 liters. In Class 1, the restrictions were less. Engine regulations called for a 2.5-liter engine with a maximum of 6 cylinders and 4 valves per cylinder. This engine must be based on a regular production unit built by the same manufacturer, but must not be fitted to the car on which the Class 1 Tour is based. The rulebook had no restrictions on electronic add-ons such as ABS and traction control. With the exception of the rear wing, all aerodynamic devices must be mounted below the center line of the wheel. It was no surprise that the DTM adapted the Class 1 regulations, while other championships preferred to run Class 2 cars. The first manufacturer to produce an all-new Class 1 car was Alfa Romeo, which based its new touring car on the 155 sedan. Dubbed the 155 Ti V6 DTM, the new Alfa Romeo Class 1 racer looked very similar to the production car. On closer inspection, nothing was as it seemed. Although the DTM racer had a shell that followed the same lines as the road car, it was made of thinner steel. In fact, the shell was so thin that the mechanics had to be careful not to lean against the roof. The stiffness lost by lightening the car's body was compensated by a perfect roll cage installed on each side of the cabin. This tubular steel structure was effectively a space frame chassis mounted inside the shell. Removable panels such as the engine cover and doors are all made from lightweight carbon fiber composites. As specified, only the body parts below the wheel's centerline have been carefully shaped for aerodynamic benefit. A deep splitter is installed in the nose, and a full-width diffuser is installed in the rear. Additional downforce is created by a 2-element rear wing. Literally, the beating heart of the Alfa Romeo DTM racer was its 2.5-liter V6 engine. According to the rules, it was based on the production block. That didn't stop Alfa Corse engineers from creating a virtually downsized Formula One engine. A limit was set at 12,000 revolutions per minute to keep costs down, but the 60-degree V6 would have been more than happy with it. At its debut in 1993, the engine produced around 420 horsepower, which steadily increased to 490 horsepower by 1996. In addition to being powerful, the Giant was also light, tipping the scales at just 106 kilograms. While the engine in the production 155 was mounted transversely, the DTM car's 2.5-liter V6 was mounted longitudinally in front of the front axle. It was mated to a transverse 6-speed, semi-automatic gearbox. A 4-wheel drive system from the Lancia Delta HF Integral rally car was installed. The drivetrain was split 35% to 40% front and 65% to 60% rear. Double forks with spring springs are installed on the shock absorbers at the 4 corners. The relatively long suspension arms were more like those found on an F1 car than a production road car. The suspension was fully adjustable, while the driver could also adjust the stiffness of the roll bars via levers mounted next to the seat. The machine is also designed with easy access to mechanics in mind. A good example is the rear axle, which can be removed by loosening only 6 bolts. Stopping power was provided by ventilated disc brakes from Brembo. These were combined with a sophisticated anti-lock braking system supplied by Bosch. Traction control is also installed. Thanks to all the lightweight components installed everywhere, the 155 DTM racer was able to achieve a minimum weight of 1,060 kilograms. The car had performance indicators that completed 0 to 100 kilometers per h in just 2.5 seconds and a top speed of over 300 kilometers per h. 155 V6 Ti DTM. The time was ripe for the 1993 DTM debut at Zolder in Belgium. 5 examples of cars lined up, 2 entered through the works team, more work by private employees who received sound legal backing from Alfa Corse. The factory cars were driven by XF1X Alessandro Nannini and Nicola Larini. The last 6 rounds of the championship added a 4th personal car to Alfa Romeo's roster. The basis for Alfa Romeos came from Mercedes-Benz. The German order version used a modified 19E used in 0 seasons. Their C-Class based Class 1 car would not be ready until the start of the 1994 season. The first purpose-built Class 1 racer to line up in the 1993 season was the Opel Calibra V6 Force 4, which debuted at the final round of the year. Undoubtedly, the highly sophisticated Alfa Romeo 155 V6 Ti DTM strengthened the competition. In Zolder, Nicolai qualified Larini's car on pole on the opening weekend of the season, and he went on to win both races. Christian Danner finished second with a personal example in both. Italy would go on to win 8 more of their 18 championship starts. His compatriot Nannini would also have 2 wins, with both La and Danner winning the non-championship round at Donington. With 10 songs in 20 starts, Larini was the deserving Deutsche Tourenwagenmeister of 1993. Alfa Romeo also won the Constructors' Trophy, but by a narrow margin over the much-needed Mercedes-Benz team. In 1994, the playing field was leveled with the arrival of the Class 1 Mercedes-Benz C-Class. The result was a very impressive championship with Alfa Romeos winning 11 of the 20 rounds. That didn't move Mercedes-Benz touring car ace Klaus Ludwig to the punch. Despite winning just 3 rounds, his podium finish helped him secure the championship. Larini, despite winning 5, was only 3rd, and Nannini was 4th with those 3 results. The now 3-year-old 155 V6 Ti contested the DTM in 1995 with a total of 5 wins. A lot more happened to the DTM with the International Touring Car Championship, or ITC, added to the series' popularity. These were effectively DTM races at international tracks such as Mugello, Estoril, and Magny-Cours. Mercedes-Benz driver Bernd Schneider was the 1995 DTM and ITC champion. For the 1996 season, the DTM title was announced with 3 rounds in total, now counting for the ITC. The added attraction of a true international championship led Alfa Corse to further develop the 155 V6 Ti. The engine was also more powerful and lighter, which helped improve performance. As in 1995, it was finished in the Martini colors associated with the factory cars. With 10 tracks in 26 starts, the 155 was once again the most successful car in the championship. However, it was the much-improved Opel Calibra and driver Manuel Reuter who finished the year as champions. This was despite the German driver winning just 3 to the 7 levels of third-place Nannini. Watching a Class 1 race was very expensive. This led both Alfa Romeo and Opel to halt their efforts at the end of the season. Now it is recommended to compete in Mercedes-Benz 1997. This resulted in the end of the championship, which did not return until the 2000 season with DTM, short for Deutsche Tourenwagen Masters. What is happening now in the DTM has all the characteristics of 1996, but a different solution was found to end the streak. Introducing production-based touring cars in 2021, the DTM will switch to GT3-based machines. These teams are available and will eventually be available again for championship productions. Ideally, more fields would compensate for the loss of appeal of full-time efforts. DTM ITC's 1993 196 will forever be remembered. Indeed, it created particularly serious challenges from the very talented current challenger. Set as the gold standard at the start of the 1993 season, the Alfa Romeo 155 Ti V6 won an incredible 38 in just 89 starts. The V6 powered machine qualified on pole 19 times and set the fastest lap in 42 races. After the 155 circuit racing career, some examples reappeared in the Italian Hill Climb Championship. One was to get class wins at the end of 2015. Few examples are in private hands today, but Italian historic racer Franco Miners owns two. He explains, "First of all, I watched all these races. They were great. Mercedes-Benz against Alfa Romeo. I also had many friends who were driving in them." Miners continues, "Secondly, I found the technology and the rules amazing. I think the car was more advanced than the Formula One car of the same era. Look at the motor. It sits lower than the height of the front wheels. Tell me another race car where the mechanics were able to change the engine in 15 minutes between one and the other. Unbelievable. I liked the 93 version as well as the 94. 95 version. I wouldn't want a 96 version with a pneumatic valve train and lots of electronics." The 155 V6 Ti DTM clearly did not disappoint. Miners concludes, "Finally, if you ever get a chance to drive one, the sound, the revs, the setup, you drive a 155 and consider yourself a professional Formula One driver, they are very easy to drive." Dear friends, that's it for today. Thank you for watching the video until the end. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Write your thoughts in the comments. Farewell for now.